Right. And so now I will introduce just a little bit, let her do the rest, is Wesley Hill, one of I guess, the most recent pastor of the church. Is that, no, I guess there have been more. Yeah, Wade came on. Okay. So, but she's definitely been an amazing addition to the staff here. And we are so blessed to have her here tonight to talk with us. So, Wesley, have at it.
Well, I'm Weslee. I am one of the pastors. I'm my let's see, my official title is the Associate Director of Caring Ministries, which means that I care for people all day long, which is great. I love it. I've actually been, you all know, I grew up here in Maryland. I moved away, came back in 2017. I've been on staff since 2020, but I've been a pastor since the summer. So they're taking lots of roles within the church, which has been a lot of fun. So my path to get here might be it's kind of like this, which I think is appropriate for where we are. I knew that 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 I was called to be a therapist when I was in college. And so I went to grad school and I was a therapist for 12 years and I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite job. I wanted to do it for all of eternity and it was great. But I found myself without a job. Now, as a therapist, you're like, how did that happen? I worked for a religious organization in Northwest Tennessee. And when I got divorced, they said, sorry, you're not going to work here anymore. And I said, okay. And so I looked for a job for 18 months. I have a master's degree. I was practicing therapy in a small town. And looked for an hour, and then I looked in an hour radius around my home to be able to stay where we were 18 months. Didn't find it. It's not that I applied for anything. I applied online, in person. I offered to start paint at Lowe's. Nope. I was overqualified. I could not find a job. So, very frustrated. So when we start talking about career transitions, I went through a major one because it was like, well, now what? I applied in the middle of the night. It was like 2:00. My kids were with their dad at that time. I applied at like 2:00 in the morning to a job on LinkedIn, leaning back in my chair, just typing away to Tennessee Oncology here. And that's where I landed. The reason I applied here is because my dad lived here. And so my boys and I moved back here in 2017. And I started working at Tennessee Oncology as a patient advocate. I loved the people. My mom was a patient at Tennessee Oncology. And so I just kind of went and gave back to people who helped my mom and got to love on the patients. But the very hardest, well, not the very I was not settled. They asked me to start doing money. I do not do money. I do not count. If it involves numbers, I am not good. No, thank you. But that's what they asked me to do. Started talking about how to pay for chemotherapy. And I have a heart for people who are going through cancer and wanted to help. But when it comes to numbers, that's not important. There wasn't a way to go forward with where I was. So I started asking, okay, what's next? Didn't feel like therapy was it. Wasn't quite sure what it was. I applied for a couple of other jobs, but nothing. I waited. And I waited. We did a whole lot of praying. And then this job came open, and I just happened to have a conversation with somebody who was like, I know somebody who knows somebody. And so I got put in the door here. Between the time that I started working at Tennessee Oncology and the time I started working here, I met with pretty much everybody who would meet. I just want to figure out what you need. I just want to talk to you. Where can I get plugged in? Honestly, at that point, I wanted to be a Stephen minister. Tell me how to be a Stephen minister. That's what I wanted. So I know what it's like to be in the middle of transition. I know what it's like to be like, okay, I know that this was my career. Nope. It's not. So now when what am I gonna do in the middle of all this? I don't know y'all's stories. I don't know where y'all are. Y'all might be in different places. Y'all might be exactly where you know that you know that you know you're supposed to be. You might be in a place where you knew that you knew that you knew you're supposed to be, and now it's different. You might be in a place where you're like, I am tired of this, I'm ready for something. I don't know. But we all know, I think, what it is like to take a hard whoop. I guess I'm going this direction. If not job wise, life. So y'all are not alone. I echo Scott when he says you do not have to walk this path alone. Y'all know that. That's why part of the reason why I learned. So we're glad. Has anybody, have y'all been here when they've done, when when Sharon has done the presentation on transitions? Anybody heard that one before?
How long ago was that?
I should think she did it once in 22 and then once pre-COVID.
Okay, I haven't heard.
Okay.
So when I came on in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, because that's a great time to figure out to do something different. She and I got connected somehow. I guess it was in 21. And we started talking about, well, frankly, this book. This is Transitions by William Bridges. I highly recommend it. What we're going to talk about.
Let's see.
That's good. There you go. You got it.
Here it is.
Yeah. It's Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes by William Bridges. It's a really good book. And I don't necessarily like books. I'd much rather talk to people. So it's just he has another one on this, but this one it's not just career based, it's life based. And so those are some of the things. I mean, that is a book I highly recommend. And I've got a list of references here that that Sharon had done. And so she's read this book. She is amazing. She had a consulting group and worked with doctors and nurses all over and did conferences and that kind of stuff. And she did a lot of stuff with transitions with different corporations, hospitals, that kind of stuff. Worked with groups as they were merging and worked them through the transition. Because part of what she talks about is the difference between, and they talk about in the book, is the difference between change and transition, which doesn't seem like there's going to be that much of a difference. But this model, one of the reasons why we like this model so much is because it focuses more on the internal work that happens when external change happens. So there's not a lot that we can do about the things that happen to us or around us. The things that change all the time or around us that we may or may not be able to influence whatsoever. But we do have the ability to work on and look at the things that are happening internally. And so that's the difference between change happening all around us that we can count on. It is like being at point A and then at point B. So you have a point A and a point B. That is change. Now, when you talk about transition, it's what happens inside of us between point A and point B. So we're looking at the thing between. And again, we can't always do something with the things that are around us, but we can focus on what we do with the things that are around us. Sharon said, we are overchanged and under transition. So we focus so much more on the things outside of us than the things that are going on internally. And so taking time to think about the impact on us internally on those things that are outside of our control, like the pandemic. We didn't have control over that, but we also had control over some of the things that were going on internally during that. So he focuses on a process, which is basically not one side. What's going to work for you is not necessarily going to work. So if you give somebody an answer, Well, that might be the perfect answer for you. May not work. So when we're focusing on the process, it is everybody's own ability to get through to whatever it is on the other side for others. Not here is your goal. Change is goal oriented. It is situational and it is external. Transition is process oriented, psychological and internal. So what we talked about. Transitions are loops, which may not make a whole lot of sense, which is why we get to draw. So the way that he does the model, I'm going to draw.
Is there?
And we'll come back to this several. But the way that he draws and looks at, I'm a visual person, I don't know how y'all are, but the way that he does this is it's like change is going to be loops in life. So you're going along and yay, ooh, okay, now we're going along. And y'all can probably name some of those that are happening. Yeah, we're just going along, everything's great. Oh, wait, no, I hit something. Got to figure it out again, and then you kind of level back out again. So this is really the visual that Bridges gives us here, and that we're going to keep coming back to. So they are those journeys and those loops that happen: loss of job, loss of relationships. The thing about this is when you're coming through it, you have to let go of something in order to get something, which is always really, really hard. The way that he talks about this, and he has process, doesn't look like you're going to have stages in this, but he has little processes or stages in it. So this is your ending phase. Ending stages. Your ending stage is going to be when something ends, obviously. It's going to be disengagement, dismantling, disidentification, disenchantment, disillusionment, disorientation. It's just not working. So you have something that ends, whatever that is, and then you go into this neutral zone, which starts here. And I want to use a little bit more, but that's your neutral zone, where you're still trying to figure something out. And then you get over here to your new beginning. So that's kind of the model that he does. It looks really simple. Like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. So if we think through these three phases, your ending zone is going to be your letting go of things. One of the things that Sharon would do is when she would go into a corporation that was being bought out, or they were having new management, or something was going on, she would talk about things that were ending, like what is it that you're going to miss? She talked about it kind of like you're moving to a new house. What are things that you were leaving behind? What are things that you're going to take? This is kind of that place where you get into your grief, your stages of grief. You're going to be angry. You're going to be sad. You're going to be, all of the different stages. And it's not like you're going to hit one and then the next and the next. Y'all have seen that what grief actually looks like, right? It's like a gigantic hairball. Instead of going through the 5 stages. Oh, very neat. Just next one, nah. You just kind of go through all. And so those are the things that hits during the ending stages. You cannot push this process. It's not like, okay, we're going to run through it, we're going to be fine. It just kind of happens the way that it happens. It's the way that grief happens. So there's a lot of grief that happens. Allowing that to be what it is will actually help you get through it faster, which sounds weird. But if you push it or you try and pretend it's not there, you actually stay in this phase alone. This is a really good place for Stephen Finch. Oh, look at it, you found it.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I saw it in the reflection. I was like, there it is.
That is from Sharon's.
That is from Sharon's. Yep, that's it. Can you see it up there? It looks like that, except it was hard to draw using Microsoft Office. And I think I actually have that here on this one too. I do have some other slides. So in the ending phase, those, you're going to have those places with you. I would encourage you to be gentle with yourself. And it's a place of grief. It's a place of living. A lot of times there will be a push to act on something just to do something. I need to do something. And so we'll kind of rush a process just to feel like we are doing something. Sit patiently. It's very, very hard. It's hard to sit with our grief. It is hard to sit with our emotions. If you can take care of yourself in some little ways, go for a walk. Go to the park. Whatever it is that you find that is good for yourself, do those things. Reach out for support. Make time for things that inspire you. Read a book. Be with friends who give you energy, support, encouragement, those things. I have a list here about some things that you can do with your friends who might be in the ending phase as well. Understanding and listening. Be respectful. And this is also for you all. If you're in this stage, be respectful of the things that the past has taught. When I was going through a divorce and loss of my job, and moving and not knowing what I was going to be doing, it's so easy to become focused on all of the yuck that has happened. And we can drown in it. I was not in a place where we had Stephen ministers. Had I been there, I would have followed one. But it's easy to kind of get into all the negativity with it. Rightfully so, because it is a grieving part too. But there are also places where I can be thankful for the things that the past has taught me. I would not be where I am today had I not gone through. And so, if I'm honest, a lot of my prayer during that time was, okay, God, if it's going to be this awful, and apparently it is, I need you to make it work. Do something good. Make something good out of how awful it is. And it was pretty awful. And so I clung to it. So in my ending stage, that's what I was clinging to. If at the number of times I said that, if it's going to be this awful, make something good out of it. And I didn't know what that was going to be. Any questions about ending zones? I think y'all know kind of what that is. Okay. So from there, when you go into this neutral zone, and it kind of comes down and across, doesn't always feel good. In fact, it feels pretty rotten. Because it's an area of, I don't know what's going on, what am I doing, which way am I going, what should I be doing? But it can also be an area of creativity. I've never thought about it. I had never thought to apply for a job at Tennessee Oncology. But I was like, I like people, I can do it. I applied for jobs that I don't know. I never had jobs that I applied for, a bunch of them. But I applied for whatever it is that I was like, okay, who knows? I don't know where this is going to take. And I really didn't know where my next step was. But this is a time of it can be. It doesn't have to be, and it does take a choice. But this can be a time of creativity to think through new things. Okay, what else is something? I will tell you, never in a million years did I think I'd be a pastor. Did not. Did not. And here I am. This neutral zone is like being between two trapeze. Y'all seen circus where they let go of one and fly through the air with nothing there to grab onto, and then find the other hand on the other. That's what this is. This is the air between your two trapeze people hold on. It is normal, and it is a necessary part of the process. We do not like it always, but it is normal and it is necessary. In this space is where a lot of unfolding can take place, where you are able to process some things, you're able to listen. Again, if we're not rushing things and doing things just to do. I spent a whole lot of time listening. All right, what am I supposed to do? And then I would be like, okay, I'm gonna go work at Sage Hill because I'm gonna be a therapist. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not. But that was my doing just because I needed to feel like I was doing something. When I settled down into this neutral zone of, okay, I'm gonna be receptive to what's coming. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna go after, but I'm gonna look for some direction. What is bubbling to the top? What is important here? There are a lot of times that there are just these little bitty incremental shifts that you don't really notice. It's a conversation here. It's a conversation. The conversation I had was Christmas Eve serving communion with Dietrich Kirk. And I was like, I need one of those things. And he was like, what things? I was like, one of those robes. He was like, that is the weirdest thing anybody has ever said to me. I was like, well, I have a master's degree from seminary. I should have one, right? He goes, ooh, let's talk. It was not anything that I had set aside. It wasn't anything that I was like, let's go talk about this. It was just a conversation and an offhanded remark. I have no idea. But it's kind of just settling into that process and letting things kind of bubble up that are important. Now the downside of this is that your anxiety can be like, oh, I really need to do something. Anxiety rises, motivation falls. Anxiety will rise, motivation will fall. Because we want to do things, we want to do, I need to be doing something, and then it's like, I don't want to do anything. It can feel disorienting, and there can be a whole lot of self-doubt. Productivity drops, energy spent in coping. I don't like this place that I'm in. This is uncomfortable. I don't want to do this anymore. Those kinds of things. So these are all the downsides to it. So I'm giving you all the, exciting parts. I'll get to upsides, I promise.
Is this where you freeze or you check out?
You can.
Okay.
You can. Yeah. So you have all this energy that comes along with grief, and then you kind of go down into this place of you freeze. You're like, I am my own. Right. Anxiety rises, motivation falls. Yeah, I mean it's a cycle. It's like, okay, I'm gonna apply for however many jobs. Okay, I'm gonna go do this thing. No. I'd rather just sit on the couch. Number of times I did that. You kind of feel scattered and overwhelmed, or you can. Now the upside is that it is a good time for that creativity. What have you never thought about? Where's the energy? That was one thing that Sharon used to talk about a lot, is follow the energy. What is it that you love to do? Is there something that I have always wanted to do this thing, or I am excited about this thing? Whatever this thing is. Can I reimagine what a job doing that would look like? Is there a job that highlights that I haven't thought about? Who are people that I know that are like that? What do they do? Pay attention to silly questions. It's that creativity part. And it may be off the wall and it may never amount to something, these silly questions, but it might. I mean, I asked a silly question. Where do I get one of these robes? I mean, that was pretty silly. And I don't think Deech knew what to do with me. Yeah, he was like, that was the weirdest. It's a time for reorientation and redefinition. And you can be intentional about reframing, which is the language that you use for things. Am I going to say, oh, golly, this is awful, or this is hard, this is a challenge? Okay, I've faced challenges before. What do I do with challenges? What are other times when it's been challenging? Instead of using something like this is awful, this is terrible, I don't want to do this. It can be a let's reframe the way that we talk about things in different language. And that is key because the way that we talk about something is the way that we're going to receive it. And that is going to motivate or it is going to not. So discourage or encourage. In the neutral zone here, there's a lot of yet. I don't have a job yet. Oh, I didn't do that yet. I haven't reached this thing I want to do yet. So if we add, I told you I like others. This year is going to be a lot of yes. Because it's those yes that are going to propel us. So as much as I would love to spend more time here, this is where this is where we spend a lot more. Now we think about, oh, I'm just going to go from here to here. Well, that's your change. That's your point A, point B. But this is that internal process, transition process that we're talking about, which is why we spend a lot more time on it. Any questions about it? Thoughts about it?
And actually, a neutral zone is a place where it would be vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you repeat that question or the statement?
What I was saying was, the neutral zone could be a place where people could be vulnerable or subject.
It can be a place of, okay, here it is. This is what's real and what's going on. It's also about being honest with yourself. Because there are parts that I don't want to think of. I had somebody in that period of time, the best, most eye-opening thing that was said to me was, Weslee, know what you do. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Know what you know. And then make choices based on it. And so when I was real with myself, when I was real with other people that I trusted and I could be open, then there was that ability to think about, okay, so what are my choices based on what I know? It is. It's vulnerable. It's real. It can be wrong and uncomfortable, which is what all of that is. Okay. Well, then we get to the new beginnings. And that is what it looks like. That is what it is. But also remember that beginnings are messy. We don't think about that. We're like, oh, okay, something new, something good. Everything's great. Not always, because beginnings you're trying to find your foot. And they're messy. So again, be patient with yourself. It involves new understanding, new identity, and not just starting new. Again, you're not going from point A to point B. Oh, this is who I am. There is all of this process in between. And it can activate some of those old anxieties, which we also don't think about. It's like, oh, it's great. And there are also things that come with it. Y'all ever seen the scale, like the stress scale? The top 100 things that are most stressful. Some of them include things like having a baby. That's a good thing, right? That is stressful.
It's hard.
Yeah. So there are good things that are also stressful. What? Celebrate the small victories. Some days it can feel like, well, if I haven't reached this again, goal driven, that is going to be the external goal driven thing. If I haven't reached this, then I haven't made it. Because if you are going from A to B, you have missed this entire process. And there's a lot of good stuff that happens. So if you're just thinking, oh, here's my goal, here's this one thing, and that's the only thing we're focused on, there is all of this really good stuff. Hard, but really good accomplishment that we can miss. They can be baby steps, but celebrate those. Because they are moving you in the direction that you're wanting to go. So make sure you celebrate the victories. Put people around you who are going to support you. Let's see, what other things are in
How do you know that you're on track to do? Question. How do you know that you're on track in the neutral zone, working towards what God has planned for you?
That is a good question. Sometimes we don't.
I mean, it's hard. They didn't give me the playbook.
No, they didn't. They didn't. I didn't get it either.
Darn it.
Nope.
I want my money back.
Right. Well, and sometimes these things will go like this. And oh, wait, we're coming back. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're hey, we're all okay.
Because it's the journey.
It's the journey.
And you put one foot in front of the other, walk faithfully, because you're trying to seek what God is trying to lead you towards. And where he closes a door, he opens a window.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are a lot of closed doors.
Yeah.
I had 18 months of closed doors.
Yep.
What did you do? What did I do? I ran. I honestly, if I am 100% honest, I did not cope well during those 18 months. Did not. I didn't know what I was doing. There was a lot. My mom also died in the middle of that. But it was, so that is not a woe is me. That is it's a fact. It is what life does. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was going to be a therapist. Loved it. And then I was like, nope. We're going to do something different. Okay, I have tools. Honestly, that was one thing that I had wrong. There was one night that I sat in my office and every single thing that I had in my head that I was mad about, that I was thinking, I love flip charts, which is why I own my own. I sat back in my office and I wrote down every single thing that popped into my head for about 3 hours. Put on a flip chart. I like colors, so they were in colors, they were in big font, they were in small, I filled up an entire one and I wrote over it. And I put it all on here. And then I looked back after I had brain dumped everything, and I was like, no wonder I feel the way I feel. So I had some tools because I went to school for that, but it's also hard to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. I had a therapist during that. Yes. I did the things that I knew were important for me to do. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of friends where I was, so very small. And so I didn't have a lot. I did the things that I knew, and frankly, a lot of it, I did not make healthy choices. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, nobody's gonna do this for me. So I gotta figure out a way to do it. So up my bootstraps. And it was one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other. And a lot of praying and a lot of God, if it's gonna be this awful, you have to make something good. And I didn't see that for a while. I sat in this place for a long years. I got a job. What did I do? I worked as a secretary. I answered the phones for, oh goodness, an insurance company. Can't remember the name, but I wanted to sing the jingle every single time I answered the phone. But I needed something to do. I needed a job. I didn't care what it was. And so like I said, I offered to start paint at Lowe's. What else did I? And then I moved. That was healthy for me. Got involved in here. Was in a small, I am still in a small group. Found a wonderful group of people that walked with me through it. One of the practices that I have found most helpful. I grew up in church. You know the things you check off your list. Supposed to go to church, supposed to read your Bible, supposed to do these things, have your quiet time, those kinds of things. The thing that I find the most helpful before every single day, I will get up an hour before everybody else in the house. And I will spend that hour.
Thank you, Krista.
I will read a devotional. I will pray. I will write down my prayers. I will talk to God. And some of those are, I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're real. They're vulnerable. But it took a lot of loops to get me to where I am. And I think that is one of those things that you think about, I'm standing up here talking to y'all about this right here. Y'all weren't with me when I was here. Which is one of the reasons why I want to tell you all about that, because I know what this is like. Because I've lived through that too. And it's not fun. What about things do y'all?
Get an extra spring in your step at the new beginnings.
Yeah, but like I said, it's an exciting time, but it's also a what do I do with this?
It's kind of surreal.
I've been a pastor before. Okay, what do I do with that? There comes some things with that I don't want to preach. Have you seen where you gotta stand on a Sunday? I gotta stand in front of people. That makes me nervous. But I can do things that make me nervous. I've done that. So there are celebrations and there's new learning, which can be very exciting. Because your brain gets to work in different ways and it can be fun. But again, patience with yourself that you're not always there. Not there. I would encourage you all to think about where it is that you are on this. Pick up a book, read the book. There are probably things in there that you'll get that we didn't talk about. And each one of you is going to be in a different place. And the thing is, y'all gonna be in, these will happen throughout your life. And I'm pretty sure he'll be like, yeah, I know, one happened 3 years ago, 12 years ago, and we come out on this side. Which also means that y'all have experience coming out of this neutral zone. This is also important to them too. There are things that have ended, and we have to let go of those. I had to let go of the fact that I'm not going to be a therapist. I love being a therapist. It was fun. But I had to let go. One of the things that he talks about in here is if we don't let go of things, it's just like rearranging the furniture. Nothing really changes. It just moves in a different place. And if you don't deal with things that are here that you need to deal with, they're going to show up over here. We don't want them over here. Let's not move stuff to the past that we don't. And you make trips to Goodwill and check out stuff, you're like, I don't need this, and I don't need that, and I don't want this to come with me. It's the same thing with life. I don't want this part coming with me. Did not like that. Let's not do that again. If you all want again, I am a visual person, I am a tactile person, I am a do things to represent things. You can always put something on a note card. It's like, I don't want to take this with me. And then leave it in a trash can. When I was a therapist, I used to have, I used to have rocks, and I would work with my clients on letting go of things. So I would have this bag of rocks, and they would write the things on each rock that they were dealing. And what I would do is I would put them in a bag, and I would staple the bag, and then I would tell them to carry it around with them for an entire week till I came back. Everywhere they went. Everywhere they went. And a lot of these were teenagers, which was really funny. I was like, you have to take it with you to class, stick it in your backpack. You have to take it with you when you go to home. You have to take it when you go here. And they come back, they're like, I'm tired of carrying these rocks. And I was like, these rocks just represent what you were doing emotionally. You were carrying all of this stuff with you, it's weighing you down. You're tired of it. Which ones are you willing to get rid of? Let's work on. And sometimes they would, and sometimes they wouldn't. They're like, I'm not ready to get rid of that rock yet. All right, well, then you got rid of it. And I mean, but it's just a physical reminder of what we are doing emotionally.
It's a great visual.
Not letting go. And they're heavy. I intentionally did that. And they're obnoxious. I don't want to keep up with a bag of rocks.
I'm impressed you got the teenagers to carry them.
Well, yeah, I told them they have to. I don't know how often they do. But, yeah. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Anybody online? Any comments or questions?
Bag of rocks represented what?
The emotional things that they were carrying. So I would have, like, if a client came to me and they were dealing with friends, have them write down the friends things that they were dealing with. I'd have them write it down on the rock. But I would also seal the bag so it wasn't like other friends were like, what you doing?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, could be bitterness.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of negative things, if you've been let go from a job, or if you've had a really bad time at that job and you carry that stuff with you. It's a good way to just say, okay, acknowledge it and say, okay, no, I'm not going to carry that rock anymore.
When I lost my job, I was told I was no longer beneficial as a therapist because I chose to get divorced. I carried that rock for a long
Really? Along with all the other social implications of getting a divorce, yes.
carried that rock. And I held on to it, and I held on to it, and I was like, I am no longer beneficial. And then it wasn't just that I'm no longer beneficial as a therapist. It was I'm no longer beneficial, period. And I held on to that rock. It was heavy. And I can continue to hang on to it if I want to, but it's not serving me. And so that does become a choice of am I choosing to hang on to this rock because this one person decided that because I went through a divorce, I was no longer, oops, I'm sorry, I was no longer beneficial as a person?
Yeah.
They no.
That happens a lot with the end of relationships,
Yeah.
is the other person will say something that is so hurtful.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you judge yourself based on that one person's comment.
Or
And,
others judge you.
Mm-hmm.
well, definitely, yeah. And to acknowledge that, okay, screw them.
And sometimes I think we worry about too much what we think others are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
There's a person on Facebook, social media, Christina Kuzmak, I'm gonna miss, but she has this thing where she has two vases, and all of the compliments, you're a nice person, you are kind, I like it when you do this, you're a good mom, yada yada, and it fills up this vase. And there's one vase here, and somebody goes, you aren't good enough. And she knocks this one off.
Yep.
And carries this. And it's such a good visual. It takes three good things to counterbalance one negative. There's a lot of negative in this world.
Well, that's some of the teaching that's
The
going on,
mic.
where we're teaching everybody to, sorry. Well, that's some of the teaching that's going on, where we're teaching our children when at all cost. And if there's one little negative or one little hiccup, then it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, sports or whatever, the pressure on these kids today is unbelievable. But that, you know, it's so true. It takes 5 positives to make up for one negative.
Yeah. And finding those positives when everything is like, well, no, you have all the social media going, if you're not this. And it gets harder as an adult. Nobody's coming around and saying, hey, you did a really good job getting dressed today. I mean, nobody says that.
Well, we do with the little children.
Right?
We say thank you for helping me out.
Exactly.
For being kind to
The
your
last time
friends.
somebody said, thank you for being kind to your friends to me.
Yeah. So it kind of wears off, and then maybe everybody needs to go work in a nursery or preschool and here to revisit some of these potential values. That's my soapbox for there.
I love it.
Any other questions or comments? Well, Weslee, thank you so very much. This has been a great presentation. All right, folks, remember we are not here next week, and we shall see you in 2 weeks. Have a great holiday weekend, I hope. Good night.
Here's Sharon.
Sharon Cock. She's a church member. She's amazing. I don't know how to describe her other than she is just, I think she's like